This is Hidden Killers Week in Review.
A look back at the most prolific stories of the week.
This is Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski.
Well. It's a funny thing in the case of Delphi, because there's so much either just evidence that's missing that we've never seen or we've only seen a version of. And there seems to be a pattern going on here where there's anything that might be remotely exculpatory to Richard Allen. It either is hidden away, it's either gone, or it takes till after the actual trial for us to see what one of the key, and I put that in air quotes for those of you listening to the podcast, pieces of evidence doesn't turn out to be all that it was supposed to be. We're talking about the bridge guy video. The guy in the video where it's just seemingly unquestioned from day one that this is the killer of the girls. We've never really connected the dots why the guy on the bridge is the one who did the killing, considering it was a warm day, a nice spring, out of season, let's go for a hike type day, so everybody's on this trail enjoying it. But the guy in the video must be the killer. We're going to examine that. Jennifer Coffindaffer, retired FBI special agent, joining us to discuss, and we'll watch the video here in a moment. I want to get your initial reaction when you first saw this video before we go into too much depth on it.
You know, Tony, the word that comes to mind is just feeling betrayed.
Yeah.
Betrayed just as somebody who closely followed this, and not that meaning the prosecution.
Yeah.
The prosecution not putting forward the full story. And in fact, in my opinion, changing what the words were that were spoken. And now I see very clearly why the defense said, listen, you can't tell the jury what's being said. Let them listen and decide for themselves. And instead, they lost that motion, and they were allowed to tell the jury, a sworn officer, tell the jury what was being said, which I think would have manipulated how they perceived it. And I couldn't believe it when I saw that video.
You had a sworn officer at the trial, not only basically without any sort of credentials or any sort of real studying this video or breaking it down in any sort of scientific way to try and decipher what was said. He was just telling you his thoughts. And then he also apparently had the wherewithal to tell us that is Richard Allen, because it looks like him according to him, even though it doesn't look a thing like him. It looks like Ron Logan. And that sounds like his voice. Again, with no scientific basis. But because he's an officer of the law, he introduced it into the court, and then the jury's going to think there's some more weight to that than there actually is. And clearly they did, when all of it is just the opinion of one man. Well, we're going to watch the video here, and it's no longer just the opinion of one man as to what's going on here. If you're familiar with the 4 to 6 second original version of this video, where you just saw a couple frames of this guy on the bridge and then the words "down the hill" being played at that point in time, let me tell you what's wrong about that. He never said that at the time where you saw him in the video behind the girls. He's not behind the girls shouting, "Down the hill." That did not happen. In fact, what you're going to find and you're going to hear in this video is the girls. You're going to hear their actual voices talking about trying to figure out how to get down the hill, because that's where they wanted to go. And the guy just kind of passing, going, "Hey, yeah, down the hill." I think I would say the same thing, too, if I passed two little girls that looked confused as to where they were going and they were trying to find the path for the trail. You'd walk by, "Hey, oh yeah, down the hill." Okay, keep walking. That's it. We'll let you be the judge. Here is the clip. This is the Down the Hill video. We're going to play it on full screen if you're listening. Listen closely. If you want to watch it, be sure to check out our YouTube channel, Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski, and press subscribe if you're there right now so you don't miss it. Here we go. Here's the video. See the girls walking. There's a man in the distance.
See, this is the path that we go down. There's no path going there, so we have to go down here. Hi.
Down the hill. But before that, we never heard in court the other kind of curious part to this of there's no path there, so we need to go this way down the hill. The girls are the ones who were on a mission to go down the hill. The guy just says, hey, yep, down the hill. And that's it. Let me ask you this. If I just showed you this video, you knew nothing about this case whatsoever, and I showed you that video, is there anything alarming about that video? Jen.
Oh, apologies. I thought you were just rhetorically asking the audience.
At first
sorry.
I thought I lost you. I'm like, did we lose her?
Oh, no. I've been listening. You've been so engaging. Sorry, they're going to have to cut that. No, Tony, this is the biggest thing that I pointed out regarding the girls' actions. Listen to their voices. Look at their actions. It's clear that Abby is having trouble sort of negotiating the end of that bridge. Mm-hmm. She's not running away from the man. We've all been there. You finally get at the very end of this steep, rickety trellis, and then you scamper off at the end. Mm-hmm. And certainly I did hear her say, and it's about 6 or 7 seconds into that clip, as I recall, and she does say, help me, like to me, not help me, oh my God, but more like help me negotiate this trestle. Yeah. When you see her, she's looking straight down. She's not at all focused at anyone behind her. The man behind her is behind her probably a good, I'm going to say 10, 15 yards. Yeah. He is not close to her. When I say that, I mean, he's not in striking distance where she's at all fearful. She's just trying to get over that or across that trestle, in my opinion. And then Libby so calmly and quietly says, oh, there's no path here. We need to go this way. And the part where they said that there was a gun, I broke it down as, and I hope everybody listens, exact words are, that we go down. So she says, this is the path, loudly, that we can all hear. And then very quietly she says, that we go down.
Not, he's got a gun.
They in court said that they said something to the words of that be a gun. That was the language they used. I mean, they are not, who speaks like that? That be a gun?
Did those girls sound like they spoke in broken hick? No. That be a gun there. Like, that's not how they talk. Jesus.
That over there be a gun. No, it's so clear. Exactly what they say is that we go down. So it makes a clear sentence. This is the path that we go down. Mm-hmm. The phone trails away, so her voice trails away. There's no urgency. I just feel betrayed, as I said. I feel like we were misled as to what was really on that. And why didn't they release that whole clip, when they were 3, 5, 6 years and it had gone so cold? I think it would have been really helpful.
Exactly. Why? There's nothing incriminating about the clip or anything. It's just, why would you not show the whole damn thing? Because of that, because there is nothing incriminating on it. And this is the only little thing that they had to throw out to the public to make it look like they were doing something, that they had some sort of lead, because the public is begging for something on these missing girls or these dead girls. What happened here? But if we only show this little bit, it looks a lot more ominous, a lot more scary.
I agree with you. And I can't be, I don't know if, so there's a 30-second delay from where when you hear him say, what he says actually is guys. Mm-hmm. And then Libby says, hi. And then he says down the hill. Mm-hmm. So there is a 30-second delay, meaning could he have walked 30 seconds at that point and been near where they were at that point? It's possible. what this tells me isn't that this is 1,000% the killer. It doesn't tell me that it's not the killer. It tells me that we still don't know. Was it another voice that said that? Was it his voice that said that? All I know now for sure is the girls weren't afraid at that point, and the girls were trying to go down the hill. Those are the two things I do know.
Yeah, I mean, I got nothing out of this. I mean, and I always go back to this one of why was this assumption made that Bridge Guy is the killer? There is nothing in this video that makes me think Bridge Guy is the killer, other than he's just another guy. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there walking that day that walked by the girls. It was always presented as unequivocally, Bridge Guy is the killer. Why? Why did we jump to that? Why did anybody jump to that? I've always wondered that. It never really made a whole lot of sense to me. I thought, well, there must be more to the video. They said there's more that we haven't seen, so there must be something in this video that shows that there's more to it. There's not at all. And the video is edited. They literally moved the audio on this video, the way they presented it, to make it sound like he's chasing them down and saying down the hill. I mean, it's very crafty editing. I mean, this is the type of stuff you do when you're making a promo and you want people to get really excited about it and you just show little clips. That's what they did with this video. I don't even know how that was admissible in court when you edit it like that and you show it. I know they did show the full thing in actual court, but the way that this thing was presented and released to the public left and right was not that video. It's shocking.
Yeah, it was really disappointing. And again, could Bridge Guy be the killer?
Maybe.
Yes.
Anybody
but could
be.
Somebody else have been down that hill on the land of Ron Logan, by the way.
Yeah.
And called them over and committed this crime, or even not called them over. My biggest thing also was it was always said that a gun was racked. I've listened to this over 50 times now, Tony. I can't hear the racking of a gun.
No.
And even if he did rack the gun, the bullet was found over by where they were massacred, where their bodies laid. They were massacred in one spot and then pulled over about, fairly close by where they were massacred, but still at a distance to hide them, I believe. And that's where this bullet, full on cartridge, was found. So it never made sense to me. Why did you rack it by the Monon High Bridge where you would think a bullet would have gone out? But no, it went over by the girls. It's so wrong, everything that has been said about this video. That's my biggest takeaway.
I want to know why. I mean, why do the girls want to go down the bridge or down the hill? Because clearly this guy is not encouraging them. He's just like, they're probably pointing because it seemed like kind of what they were doing. And you go, oh yeah, down the hill, which is what it sounds like, which is if you knew where the trails were, you would help somebody identify where that is. Why did they want to go down there? I guess that's my question. If it's not this guy's influence to go down there, maybe they're just exploring. Kids do that. I would do that. But it does lead to a couple of questions, mainly Keegan Kline questions, which, it just happens to be that letter that talks about his admissions in the Rishi Davis letters seems to be missing. Of course, the one where we talk about the guy who wanted to meet the girls that day they died, and he's a child predator. But there's nothing to see here. It makes me kind of wonder, like, was there something in that conversation or something communicated of let's meet under the bridge? Maybe that's why they wanted to go down there,
Absolutely. It is interesting. And the one thing I also thought was interesting, Tony, these girls are from this area. It's a very famous area if you live there. Everybody knows the Monon High Bridge. And I thought it was interesting that they were unfamiliar with where the trail went. It was almost like it was their first time that they had actually crossed that full trellis, which was never the understanding I had in the past.
Yeah.
I always thought that they were well-versed with this area, but it's clear that either they hadn't been there for a very long time or had never been there because she's surprised. She goes, oh, the trail ends here. We have to go down there. And by the way, her voice is so sweet, and I know this is so hard. I'm hoping that none of the parents are, ever listening in on social media because it's got to be so hard for them to hear all of this. But on another note, when you're thinking about the justice that may not have been served in this case, I just can't believe this case has ended the way it has, Tony. And I think the more and more we see, the more we're going to be concerned. And again, Tony, isn't this all about the jury had the right to see all of this unadulterated and not with the influence of somebody telling them what they were looking at and hearing?
Anytime you tell someone or you have to like put words on a screen and say, this is what they're saying, your brain will automatically adapt to that. That's the psychology of it. That's how it works. That's why you can't suggest things in those sort of situations. You have to let people just absorb it and come to what they're going to come to. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong, but if we cannot truly break that down and actually hear it, you can't tell somebody this is exactly what they're saying because it fits your narrative when it clearly doesn't even say that. And then assume we're hearing a gun racking. And there's so many things here. The letter that was put out, or the response that was put out by Richard Allen's attorneys to McClelland about the errors, I found to be humorous as hell. I thought it was written beautifully. It almost looked like a script I wrote for talking about on the show, because I read it verbatim and I thought, this sounds like the things I write. So I love the snark in it, but it was all just so true of just lining out piece by piece how anything remotely exculpatory in this case has been lost, has been held back, has been altered. And then if we ever see it, it's after the fact. It goes beyond being narrow-minded, being hell-bent on we need to solve this case and this is a narrative. I'm just baffled. These are just very obvious conclusions I think anyone of a reasonable mind would come to. How the prosecution of Richard Allen came to such egregiously different conclusions doesn't make any sense to me, other than there was a reason for coming to a different conclusion. And it's not that Richard Allen was guilty.
Yeah, it's from A to Z. When I look back at when he was first taken into custody and those interviews of him, which I've compared and contrasted a lot to the kind of, just lost his mind, not even really able to communicate well at all in what we saw later in his writings compared to the beginning. Yeah. He was dogmatic. I have nothing to do with this. Go ahead, check everything out. What are you talking about? He acted, in my opinion, in that interview, his first interview, exactly how most people act when they are innocent. Yeah. They are so angry and they are very fine. Take everything. Yeah, I'll talk to you. I don't need a lawyer. You can go ahead and say this. It's not true. He said things along that line very early on. And boy, when you compare and contrast that to the supposed confessions later on, he just sounded like mush compared.
It is so angering to see this video the way it is. And I can only imagine the other things that we're going to keep learning about here. If they ever come to light, if we ever get to them, if they even exist anymore, it will be fascinating. I know the families have been very much on the side of, we got the right guy, let's move on. And I get it. Like you want that. But I also wouldn't want to know that or have any inkling that the real person who killed my kids is still out there or has not been named or brought to justice, because maybe they're dead. Do you think we're ever going to see any of the family flip on this, or anybody say, hey, you know what? You need to look at this again. And I wonder if that would have any impact on the investigation in Delphi, which I know is closed and they're all happy with it. But if you actually had the family come back and saying, hey guys, I don't think you did this right. And I don't want, the death of my daughters to also be the catalyst that destroyed another person and another family and another father, when this really wasn't what seems to have happened. I just wonder if we'll ever get there, or if they can, if that would even be a good move.
Tony, I have it on good authority that when they first arrested Richard Allen, that the family members did want to know and did ask questions. Are we sure Like our pharmacy tech, are we sure?
Yeah.
This guy is you guys have the right guy, and that they were reassured, and that of course, like most citizens, they believe what they're told straight in the face from the prosecutor and the police. And I think for them, this might just be so painful, Tony.
Yeah.
Just painful to revisit, too painful to grab a scab off that they've been told by people that they're trusting to tell them the truth, that it's over.
Yeah.
And they want it to be over. You know, these families, there's nothing better for them than they get closure.
They've been victimized by the investigation. They've been victimized by McClelland. By not being transparent on this case. These are not parents who just lost their children. They've then been re-victimized by people who didn't want to handle this case professionally and in a way that would actually lead to meaningful results. And that's horrible. I mean, they already went through hell, and then the people that they trusted to try and figure out what actually happened here also betrayed them. But they can sit and they can just pretend that it was accurate, just like the people who betrayed them are pretending it's accurate. But it's just not.
You know, at the root of any investigation like this is the crime scene.
Yeah.
And that's where the rub is. The crime scene wasn't handled appropriately. So much wasn't analyzed and taken as evidence. And it was adulterated by all the volunteers and police that trampled the crime scene, everything that was mishandled. And because of that, I don't know if we'll ever know.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll ever know, but we do know is that a cover-up of some kind went on here. And I don't know what the goal of that was, other to protect your own ego when someone's going down a path and this is what we're going to do, or if it's for some greater meaning that we don't understand. But there's too much here. And yeah, another bombshell in a case that supposedly is over. I think the answer to it being actually over is far from reality.
Craving non-stop true crime updates? Press subscribe now and get the latest cases, analysis, and expert commentary delivered straight to your feed. Only from the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today.